So there's some massively big idiots in the investor space, like, people that just don't know what they're doing. I mean, I've talked to people that literally could go to jail because they're trying to do some sort of creative finance thing and they're, committing fraud, like legitimately doing crazy things. And so agents will hear about this and just like throw the baby out with the bathwater. But the reality is there's a lot of idiots who are agents too, right?
Hey, welcome back everyone to another episode of Eat, Sleep, and Invest. I'm your host, Brian Driscoll, and I'm here with Chris Craddock today. What's going on, man?
What's up, brother? Glad to be here.
Hey, glad to have you. So this will be cool. Chris is going to talk a little bit about dead leads, right? So it'll be an interesting topic. First, before we jump into that though, Chris, give everybody a little background on like where you're from, what you do, all that good stuff.
Yeah. So I'm in the DC area. I got into real estate. I was on staff with an organization called Young Life when I was first married and young, and you're making like $25,000 a year in the DC area. It doesn't work when your wife gets pregnant. And so I went to the library, checked out every book I could find about flipping houses. In the next 4 months, I made about 12 times what I made in a year flipping houses, and ended up going back, continued doing ministry stuff. And then through that process, having more kids, my money just disappeared. And so I got into flipping again. But at that point, it was after 2008. And so everything that I would go after, the pre-foreclosure stuff, was all short sales. And so the banks were going to pay for short sales. So I'm like, all right, well, I can get a commission if I just get a license. So I got a license, and then somehow that turned into this big agent team where we've got over 40 agents on the team. We do a lot of flips, wholesales, partner with lots of wholesalers locally, and really created this agent investor compilation. And I'll tell you, the crazy thing is a lot of my buddies are investors, and everybody's so like anti-agent, but all my investor friends, they talk, like I hear over and over again how much money they gross, right? Hey, I made this much money. And then you ask the question, well, how much did you keep? And you realize, like, without sounding like, you make a lot of money when you add the agent side in as well. And a lot of times, I'll tell you, there's very few people that bring in and keep the kind of money that our organization keeps, because of the fact that we were able to do this 1-2 punch. So that's my story, man.
Yeah, and that's huge too. So first, when you went to the library the first time, who was the guy that got you hooked on flipping?
I literally, because I'm an all-in kind of guy, I checked every single book out that they had on real estate investing. But I also read this book called Rich Dad Poor Dad that I know a lot of people have read. And just reading that, it was what really, really piqued my interest was there was one sentence in there that said, you win when you buy, and then you can do anything you want when you sell. And so that really just stuck in my mind about flipping. And then, I read a bunch of books on flipping and probate and pre-foreclosures and all the other stuff. And I just decided, let's go pre-foreclosure. They have a deadline that they have to sell by. And back then it was before 2008. So you could get a commercial loan from a bank with a 5% down to flip a house. So and my uncle worked at a bank as a commercial lender. So I was like, boom, 5% down. Now I still needed to borrow money from my grandmother to get and I can tell that story, to get the few $1,000s I needed to buy my $115,000 house to flip. But I found the money, made it happen, and then the rest is history.
Yeah. And you know what? I hear that from so many people. Like if anyone hasn't read Rich Dad Poor Dad, like check out the book. I hear so many people crushing it that were introduced to real estate back in the day from that.
Yeah. So good.
How was it bumming money off your grandma off your first deal?
It was great. I'll tell you what, I gave her the money back and made a bunch more. Actually, so bro, here's the crazy thing. So my whole thing is massive imperfect action. And so I knew so little. I read all these books, literally stayed up all night just reading the books. I'm like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make this happen. But I knew so little. I still remember I knocked on this door. It was right here in Centerville, Virginia. I knocked on this door, and I still remember it was Golden Oak Court. And so I remember like it was yesterday. It was early 2000s. And I knocked on the door and said, hey, I see you got a foreclosure and whatever it was. I just wanted to see, do you have any plan for it? Like what you're going to do? And the guy, you could see into the little townhouse condo area, all the way back. And you could tell there was a girl sitting on a couch and they were watching TV together. And he He looks all nervous, looks back at her, and then like steps out on the front porch and kind of closes the door. And he's like, listen, she's going to be here for the next 4 hours or 3 or 4 hours. Can I give you my phone number and will you call me? Can we talk in like a few hours? So like, I just don't want to talk about it in front of her. And I was like, okay, sure. And little did I know, I probably wouldn't have believed him if I knew what I knew now, because I would have thought he's just blowing me off and giving me another number. But it was legit and it worked. I called him and he's like, yeah. And so, but here's the crazy thing. I knew so little. I didn't have a contract. I didn't know how to write up a contract. I didn't have anything. And so all of a sudden I'm like, what do I do? So I called a real estate agent friend of mine and was like, hey, I got this deal. He has to sell because he's up for foreclosure. And I think he needs to sell at like a discount. You want to just split this deal with me? So it was my first JV I ever did with anybody. I was like, but you can like confirm that the numbers are good and like write the contract, right? And he's like, yeah. So we did it, split the deal. And then I got another one so quick that right as we closed on it, we decided to do what I didn't even know what a JV was. I didn't know what a wholesale was, but we decided to wholesale it because we're like, hey, we can put it back on the market right now and make like 30 grand or 40 grand on this right now without doing anything. Let's just put it back on the market. So we just put it back on the market, flipped it, moved it in the next one, and then moved it in the next. So anyway, that was the deal. It was crazy. It was crazy.
Dude, I love that too, because most people getting into real estate get held up in the book phase. Then they're like, oh no, I got to keep learning versus just go out there and hustle. Like just go take that first step, because once you complete that step, you're going to figure out what's next, like you did.
Yeah. If you find the deal, like there's so many people with money. If you find the deal, there's like the dispo side of this business is so simple, right? Because who doesn't want a good deal, right? Like, I mean, this is what I say over and over again, right? Now it's no longer the newest one, but I've got an iPhone 14 Pro Max with a terabyte of data, right? Still worth over $1,000. But if I were to offer anybody listening to this podcast, hey, I'll sell you this phone. It works perfectly fine, for $50. I think I'd probably get like a billion takers because everybody wants to get it because you win when you buy, right? But everybody has a phone. They probably have a phone that's as nice as this one or nicer, right? If they got the brand new one, but they still would buy it for $50 because it's a deal. And you know that you can always get rid of a deal, right? Because you win when you buy.
Right. Now, for everyone listening too that they don't know what you're talking about, win when you buy, you're saying you got to buy deep and buy right?
If you get the right price, you can figure out anything, right? Like I teach a lot of real estate agents as well as real estate investors. And a lot of real estate agents don't consider themselves investors. And I'm like, why are you guys idiots? If you find a property that's way, way, way under market, I promise you could call 50 people and they would all have the cash to partner with you on the deal, right? And so just find the deal. The deal is the most important thing. Find the deal. You can figure everything else out.
Yeah, you're right. And I never thought about it from the agent side too, because they are stumbling upon those. It's like, yeah, you're right. If they get the deal, they'll find the people that want to buy it. They're out there. It's easy. You can sell something 50 cents on a dollar or 70 cents. Who's not going to take it that's an investor?
When I teach agents, I'm like, guys, and next time you find a crazy good deal, if you don't want to buy it or you're scared because you don't have the cash, I will put my phone number in the chat. And as long as it's a crazy good deal, now a lot of times people don't know how to evaluate deals, but as long as it's a crazy good deal, I'm like, I'll buy it in cash. I'll pay the cash, right? And we can flip it together, or we can wholesale it, or novate it, or sub two, or whatever. We can figure it out. But if it's a crazy good deal, give me a call if you don't have anybody else. But everybody thinks that it's so hard. But the bottom line is there's way too many people with cash. If you can find the deal, you win in this business.
Yeah, and that's interesting. So let's think about that. So we have relationships between investors with agents. And then we have agents that have a relationship with investors. So two different sides. So let's talk about the agents first. Like, what do you see with agents in what is some agents they're not aware of that they should be aware of, like with investing in real estate investors?
A lot of times agents, because let's be honest, the barrier to entry to become a real estate investor is super low. And so there's some massively big idiots in the investor space, people that just don't know what they're doing. I mean, I've talked to people that literally could go to jail because they're trying to do some sort of creative finance thing and they're, committing fraud, or they're just like legitimately doing crazy things. And so agents will hear about this and just like throw the baby out with the bathwater. But the reality is there's a lot of idiots who are agents too, right? And so the bottom line is, and frankly, we've all been idiots at some point in our life as well. And so the reality is, when I think this is the future of real estate, is this coming together of the agent and the investor. Because, you think about the investor, like the investor, for every 20 people that you're talking to that are going to sell their property in the next 12 months, maybe 4 of them are going to sell at a massive discount. And maybe you're going to get 1 out of those 20 that are going to sell to you at the price that you want for you to wholesale or novate or fix and flip or whatever you want to do with it. But that means 19 people are going to sell and 19 other people are going to make money on that transaction. It's just not you. And so when you can figure out how to monetize all of these people that are selling that are in your funnel, that's when you go from making decent money to making really good money. And I'll share this. There's a local investor, Brian, you and I were talking about it beforehand, that I partner with my agent team, right? Where we take their leads that are dead leads and we legitimately send them between $30,000 and $65,000 every single month on leads that would just sit dead in their CRM because they want close to retail value, but they called and they spoke to somebody about getting a cash offer first. And so we were at the top of the funnel and we were able to just transition this before some, guy who cuts hair and also has a real estate license, who's their uncle, got to them and said, "Hey, I'll list your property." And so yeah, that's the deal.
Yeah, and you know what? That's a really interesting point though. Like, and everyone listening knows we generate leads on our side, right? And most of our clients are investors. Even here in Pittsburgh, like 1 out of 10 to 1 out of 15 are going to be deals. Out of say 10 leads, 6 want too much money or just aren't a fit for a cash buyer. 4 of them might be a fit. And then you lock down 1. Those 6, Chris, you're saying partner up with an agent and turn them into money, right?
Absolutely. So what's the average sales price of a property where you are in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, Pittsburgh's probably, I'd say the mean's 250.
So you just think about that. Let me break out my calculator here real quick. I should know what all this is. So 250 times 0.035, that's 8735 times 0.35. So yeah, every one of those deals could be worth about, $3,062 to you, the investor, by just monetizing the deals that aren't in your buy box, right? And it's not much difference. If you set it up right, you just, instead of sending yourself or your acquisitions person to the house to go sign them up, you still just set an appointment. You're just setting it up for the agent that you've partnered with. But that agent has to be good and they have to understand the scripts and dialogues, and they need to know, like if they show up with let me show you my listing appointment or my listing presentation and I'm a real estate agent and let me list your house for you, then, you might as well leave because they're going to suck and they're going to lose anyway. You got to show up as the investor and who has a cash offer and a legitimate cash offer, but that cash offer is probably going to be lower than what they're going to want to accept. But then you back into the listing, right? But if you show up, "Hey, let me list your house," they're like, "I didn't want to talk to you about listing my house," right? Like, I want to talk to somebody's going to give me a cash offer.
Right. So is it basically like a pitch like, "Hey, you know what? I can do 2 things. Number 1, we can get your house sold for you. I can give you a cash offer that's fast. Or if not, we have another program that we can do," and like kind of pitch them both? Or how do you guys do that?
Yeah, we go through the whole process with them. We actually have three options, right? Once you realize and pre-qualify that they're not going to take the cash offer, maybe there's not enough pain in it, maybe whatever the reason is, they're not going to take your cash offer. They're going to list it with somebody else or take some other person's offer that's way higher than yours. Then we go in, we meet with them, and they think they're meeting with the person that's going to give them a cash offer. And they could get one if they decide to come down. And that does happen every once in a while, but very rare. And so what they do is we say, "Hey, look, Brian, you and I have been sitting here and talking, and, usually people that need a cash or that take a cash offer, because it's a cash offer, it's usually less than you get on the open market. And that's because they need to sell really fast in the next 7 days or less. And they're in severe distress. But just after talking to you, Brian, it doesn't sound like you're in that kind of distress. And so the offer that I want to make is less than you want. And frankly, it's less than I think you should take. So we could give you the cash offer, but I don't think that that's the right fit for you and your family. The second thing we could do is look, we could list it on the MLS like every other real estate agent in this area, but you go to school longer to cut hair than you do to get a real estate license in the state of Virginia. And I really have a really low view of what real estate agents do to sell houses. The third offer we have is, we call this our hybrid program. And we've got over 9,642 investors to be exact in our database. And so what we would like to do, and what I think would be perfect for your house, is that we would do our strategic investor open house. And on Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., we would put it out there and bring in investors. We'd bring in people that we really believe would be a good fit for your house, so that we could just put it out and just have these 2 hours on Saturday, 2 hours on Sunday. And that way, you're not having the hassle of having it on the market for months and months and months. Most of the time when we put it on, we get as-is offers. So you're not going to get a home inspection report like this, and we hand them a paper report with 150 pages of a gnarly report. And, we're going to close really fast, but you're also going to get the money that you want versus having to take a massive discount on your property. Is that something that makes sense to you, Brian?
Yeah, that's pretty appealing there. That's smooth.
And then you go, and then they say, yeah. And then if you're working with an agent, the script is, we just say, hey, in the state of Virginia here, in order for me to market a property, because I am a licensed real estate agent with eXp Realty, I am required to have you sign this, giving me permission to market your property. This is, but this is the money that we'll get, and you are not on the hook. If you don't get the money that we're telling you you're going to get for the house, you just say no, and we're done. That's it. Nice.
And then what? You have the open house, and then is it on the market too, or you just have your own open house with your whole list?
Oh no, we put it on the market with the list, and depending on how open they are to people coming in before, if they're just like open, like, hey, we're totally good, which most people are. They don't start off being open to it, but then they become open to it. Once they say yes once, then saying yes to like a full blown listing is good. But if they're not open to the full blown listing, then we don't allow any showings except during the open house. Now, some MLSs give a hard time about that, but if you show that it's at the seller's request, then they back off and they relent.
Yeah, that's pretty smart. Now, so say you're a agent, what do you recommend? Like when they're looking for investors, you're right. There's a lot of doofuses out there, and then there's a lot of good investors. What do you guys look at when you're looking for an investor to partner up with? Like if someone's an agent, they're just getting into this. What should they be looking at to get in with someone that can actually do it, and vice versa?
Yeah, so you're going to look them up on Zillow. Google their name and the word Zillow. And if they don't have a Zillow profile, Zillow is the biggest real estate search engine. So it just means that they're probably not on it. And then you look at their Zillow profile. And if they don't have a bunch of sales, and I'd say at least 14 to 18 sales in the last 12 months, then they're probably not doing enough business that you really want to talk to them. And frankly, it should be way more than that. Like in my opinion, if they're not doing like 25 to 35, they're probably not strong enough for you to be your person. Then you also want to ask, have they ever done any investment properties on their own, any rentals, any flips, anything at all? And if they haven't done any of that, they're probably not going to be aware of the language that they need to be using when they're talking to sellers. They're probably people that are good at opening doors and good at filling out contracts, but not really great salespeople, right? Because you need somebody that can sell. And sales is just leadership, right? That's all it is. It's like you hear a problem and you lead people to the right solution to the problem. But if you just work with people that are referrals of like friends, family, your best friends, you're not really selling as much because you already got the rapport. You don't have to build rapport and then move people along a process. And let's be honest, people that are in distress, they're typically in distress for a reason. And so, there's a little bit more of like the hand holding and like moving them through the process than there are on a regular normal sales transaction.
100%. Yeah. Because that's important too. Because if you're going to get into this space, partner up with the right person, you guys are going to crush it. Partner up with the wrong person, you're just going to be spinning your wheels.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I guarantee you, depending on how many people listen to this podcast, if you've been listening, one of two things is happening. One, you're like, oh, I've tried, or this is genius. Of course, I need to monetize my dead leads. Like, let's do it. Right. Or the other one is, I've tried this before. I've sent this to agent after agent and I've heard both, right? I've sent it to agent after agent and I almost never get a referral fee. I almost never get any money back. They never close the deals. And part of that is, one, they don't have a good script. Two, they don't have a good dialogue. And three, you picked a friend or whatever. And, maybe they're really good at being a friend, but they're probably not very good at sales.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And you know what? It's tough dealing with friends too, because they don't, like I found even when doing JV, you got to get the right person that respects a free lead. Because a lot of times people, you send them a lead and they didn't have to pay for it, so they work it differently.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the tough thing, man. I always say, like, for our team, you want somebody happy, hungry, humble, and smart. But that hungry part, man, I had a buddy of mine who was, he does a lot of deals and he's well known in this space. So I'm not going to say his name, but when we started talking about this, he's like, yeah, I got a buddy of mine. He just got his real estate license. I was like, so what was he doing last year? What was he doing before? Like, was he a high level guy? And he's like, well, when COVID happened, he kind of took a year off and hung out and whatever. And I was like, dude, anybody that's going to, and you're taking the year off, you can be mad at me all you want, but I'll tell you what, anybody that takes a year off is probably not hungry enough to be the guy you want.
100%. You want the guy that's waking up at 3 a.m. hustling.
Oh yeah, man. Like, I mean, I look back and when I was a kid, I made those like potholder loom things and sold them as like a little kid. I sold rocks, for Pete's sake. I sold rocks, right? Like people bought rocks from me. So like, if you're not dealing with people that are gonna make things happen, you're dealing with the wrong person. So you got to find people that if the door is closed, they're going to find a win. And legitimately, this has happened many times where I've been sent to a house that they say, oh, the door's unlocked. Well, it's locked. I call them and they're like, oh, sorry. Well, if you can get in, get in. And we're checking every single window. We're climbing in the freaking windows. But I've also had people that I've worked with where we've said all that and they left. And I'm like, did you check the windows? And they're like, why would we check the windows? I'm like, because don't you want to get in the freaking house? Are you kidding me? Like, it's vacant. And they're like, well, I don't want the police to get called on me. I'm like, they gave you permission to get in. Find a way to get in that freaking house.
Yep. I'm with you. It's funny. Yeah, a lot of people are scared to go through windows for that reason. They're afraid the cops are going to come. It's like, it's a weird thing,
Yeah. So, I mean, I get it, and everybody, I know there's people that have pushback and like, oh, this guy's an idiot. He climbs through people's windows. It's only with permission. I promise.
Right. You do what you got to do. You're just hustling and playing the game,
I mean, you just make things happen. There's a book that a buddy of mine, he sold a satellite business for $1 gazillion, but he made everybody in his organization read the book. And so it was called, and it's a PDF book. It's this old book, but you can find it on PDF. If you just Google it, it's called The Go-Getter. And every single person in the organization had to see themselves as a go-getter. And it's about like a guy trying to get a job during the Great Depression. And so the boss basically gave him an impossible task. And anybody that was able to figure out ways to get in and get stuff done and make things happen, they were the ones that would get the job, but everybody else wouldn't. And I'm like, man, I love the whole model behind it, right? And Tony Robbins says this, it's not, you never lack resources. You only lack resourcefulness. So, and then I think that's the truth. When you're looking for an agent, you got to have the most resourceful agent or else, you're going to just throw your money away, throw your leads away.
Yeah. So basically what I'm hearing you say is anyone who has leads is leaving a ton of money on the table, can probably just pay for their ad spend and marketing budget just with those wasted leads right now if they form the right partnerships.
Oh, absolutely. Without a doubt. 100%. I mean, just the logic of it alone. Like get rid of everything else that I've said and just think about the logic. All the people that have responded have raised their hand and said, I will sell at the right price. And a bunch of those people, are going to sell within the next 12 months. And if you are only getting, a small fraction of those people and the rest are going to sell, everybody else is going to make money. It's just not you unless you figure it out.
Yep, I'm with you. So Chris, hey, anything else we want to cover? We're about out of time.
I mean, this is the main thing. I mean, this is what I talk about. Like anybody, I'll tell you what, I always get a little nervous because it sounds a little douchey. You see all the investors, everybody else that makes all like shows their Lamborghinis and shows all their crazy stuff, and everybody's like, "Oh, I want to be an investor. I want to be an investor." You know, the agent side is so less sexy. I promise you, like, I just always feel a little uncomfortable saying it, but I promise you, I make and keep way more money than most of the investors out there from the agent side of the business. It may feel less sexy because, you know, you're making 10 grand a pop instead of making, you know, a $50,000 wholesale fee once a month or once every other month or once every 6 months, you know, but you're making 10 grand a pop. But if you do a bunch of them over and over again, you keep way more money. And so I'm telling you, the agent side of the business it may not feel sexy, but when you make and keep more money it is more sexy, right? So when you can add both and to it, there's a lot of value there. And so, you know, I've created a network in our EXP line where, you know, we deal with the agent investor side of the business. You know, I do some teaching, some masterminds, like some free stuff for the people that are in our network. So if that's ever something you've considered or thought about, you know, definitely reach out to me. Instagram @CradRock. I personally don't answer a lot of my stuff, but I do answer my own DMs. So not always right away. I've got like 24 of them that I need to answer right now because I just spoke at a conference and like a bunch of people I offer this to. So anyway, so I don't answer it right away, but I answer my own DMs. So if you have any interest in doing that, send me a message there. If you already are an agent, do the investor agent thing. You know, the average podcast listener listens to 7 podcasts. I'd love to be one of your other 7. Uncommon Real Estate, and it's basically the agent investor piece. And then also on Facebook, you know, Uncommon Real Estate Facebook group. So, you know, any way I can help, I'd love to help.
That's cool, man. Hey, everyone listening too, those will all be in the show notes also. We'll link directly to them. Hey, Chris, yeah, we appreciate you. Thanks for coming on, man.
Absolutely. This has been a lot of fun, brother.
Yeah, good stuff. Hey, everyone, thanks for listening. Until next time, get out there, crush it, close some deals. See you guys.